So this is the beginning of chapter 16, Canto 5:16, chapter 16, and this is the summary, which will tell us what we can expect to hear about in chapter 16. While describing the character of Maharaj Priyavrata and his descendants, Sukadeva Goswami also described Meru Mountain and the planetary system known as Bhumandala. Bhumandala is like a lotus flower, and its 7 islands are compared to the whorl of the lotus. The place known as Jambudvip is in the middle of that whorl. In Jambudvip, there's a mountain known as Sumero, which is made of solid gold. The height of the mountain is 84,000 yojanas, of which 16,000 yojanas are below the earth. Its width is estimated to be 32,000 yojanas at its summit and 16,000 yojanas at its foot. 1 yojana equals approximately 8 miles. The king of mountains, Sumero, Sumero, is the support of the planet Earth. On the southern side of the land known as Ilavartavarsa are the mountains known as Himavan, Hemakuta, Nishada, and on the northern side are the mountains Nila, Sweta, and Shringa. Similarly, on the eastern and western side, there are Malyavan and Gandhamadana, 2 large mountains. Surrounding Sumera mountain are 4 mountains known as Mandara, Meru Mandara, Suparsva, and Kamuda, each 10,000 yojanas long and 10,000 yojanas high. On these 4 mountains there are trees as banyan tree. A little bit of a misprint there, I don't know what that actually says, but there are also lakes full of milk, honey, sugarcane juice, and pure water. These lakes can fulfill all desires. There are also gardens named Nandana, Chitrarata, Vaibrajaka, and Sarvatobhadra. On the side of Suparsva mountain is a kadamba tree with streams of honey flowing from its hollows. And on Kamuda mountain there's a banyan tree named Satvalsa, from whose roots flow rivers containing milk, yogurt, and many other desirable things. Surrounding Sumeru mountain, like filaments of the whorl of a lotus, are 20 mountain ranges such as Karanga, Karara, Kushumba, Vaikanka, and Trikuta. To the east of Sumeru are the mountains Jatara, Devakuta, and to the west are Pavana and Parayatra. To the south are Kailasa and Karavira, and to the north are Trishringa and Makara. These 8 mountains are about 18,000 yojanas long, 2,000 yojanas wide, and 2,000 yojanas high. On the summit of Mount Sumeru is Brahmapuri, the residence of Lord Brahma. Each of its 4 sides is 10,000 yojanas long. Surrounding Brahmapuri are the cities of King Indra and 7 other demigods. These cities are 1/4 the size of Brahmapuri. So we're going to get some Vedic cosmology here. And if we are not able to visualize what's being described here, we should just hear it. And hear it again, and hear it again, and hear it again. And at some point, we'll have some realization. But that's my experience, is that if I hear something that just I cannot grasp, or that goes against what I thought I knew, with my material education, training, and vision. I just listen to it. I just hear it. And I just accept that it's something that I don't have any realization of yet, but that at some point I will. So we can hear these things and just accept that it's something that is beyond my realization at this point. But we'll hear what Prabhupada, Krishna conscious, purely Krishna conscious devotee, will get his guidance to guide us through these chapters of the Bhagavatam. So, text 1. King Parikshit said to Sukadeva Goswami, "O Brahman, you've already informed me that the radius of Bhumandala extends as far as the sun spreads its light and heat, and as far as the moon and all the stars can be seen." Okay, Prabhupada's commentary. In this verse it's stated that the planetary system known as Bhumandala extends to the limits of the sunshine. According to modern science, the sunshine reaches Earth from a distance of 93 million miles. If we calculate according to this modern information, 93 million miles can be considered the radius of Bhumandala. In the Gayatri Mantra we chant Om Bhur Swaha. The word Bhur refers to Bhurmandala. Tatsavartar Varenyam. The sunshine spreads throughout Bhumandala. Therefore the sun is worshipful. The stars, which are known as nakshatra, are not different suns as modern astronomers suppose. From Bhagavad Gita we understand that the stars are similar to the moon. Nakshatranam aham shashi. Like the moon, the stars reflect the sunshine. Apart from our modern distinguished estimations of where the planetary systems are located, we can understand that the sky and its various planets were studied long, long before Srimad Bhagavatam was compiled. Sukadeva Goswami explained the location of the planets, and this indicates that the information was known long, long before Sukadeva Goswami related it to Maharaj Parikshit. The location of the various planetary systems was not unknown to the sages who flourished in the Vedic age. Okay. Sunshine reaches Earth from a distance of 93 million miles. Consider that the radius of Bhumandala It's interesting how calculate that. And Prabhupada makes the point that long before Srimad Bhagavatam was compiled, these things were studied long, long before Srimad Bhagavatam was compiled. So that's going pretty far back. So that at least it wasn't that the information was known long, long before Sukadeva Goswami related it to Maharaj Parikshit. as with everything else, modern day scientists think they're discovering these things for the first time. It's knowledge that's been lost, is what it is. Text 2. My dear Lord, the rolling wheels of Maharaj Priyavata's chariot created 7 ditches in which the 7 oceans came into existence. Because of these 7 oceans, Bhumandala is divided into 7 islands. You have given a very general description of their measurement, names, and characteristics. Now I wish to know of them in detail. Kindly fulfill my desire. So the extent of the material powers that these personalities had is way beyond anything we can even try to visualize, sitting here in the middle of the Kali Yuga with a lifespan of at most 100 years. And these people, they had lifespan 100,000 years. And the extent of their abilities to manage and control the material universe is it's hard for us to make that leap. So we're saying here that Maharaj Priyavrata had a chariot, and the wheels created 7 ditches in which 7 oceans came into existence. Because of these 7 oceans, Bhumandala is divided into 7 islands. So Maharaj Parikshit is wanting to know in more detail about this. Text 3. When the mind is fixed upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his external feature made of the material modes of nature, the gross universal form is brought to the platform of pure goodness. In that transcendental position, one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vāsadeva, who in his subtler form is self-effulgent and beyond the modes of nature. O my Lord, please describe vividly how that form, which covers the entire universe, is perceived. A little bit of background noise here. Oh man, material nature. It's a nice neighborhood that I'm able to live in, but they're always making noise out there, cutting the trees and the grass with all these machines, and it's never quiet. So, oh my goodness. Okay, let's try, see if we can't approach this verse again. When the mind is fixed upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his external feature made of the material modes of nature, the gross universal form, it's brought to the platform of goodness. Okay, that's nice. That gives a little bit of light there on, this is when meditate on the universal form of the Lord, and there are many descriptions of the universal form. They appear in different places, that the trees and plants are grasses are the hairs on his body, and the sun and the moon are his eyes, and like this. That it's a way to meditate on the personality of Godhead in his external feature made of the material modes. Then one person who does that, they come to the mode of pure goodness. And pure goodness is a position. From that position, one has a good opportunity to approach and realize the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vāsadeva, who in an even subtler form is self-effulgent and beyond the modes of material nature altogether. So Maharaj Parikshit is saying that, and then he's asking his spiritual master, Sukadeva Goswami, he says, please vividly describe how that form, which covers the entire universe, is perceived. So he wants to know everything. He wants to know everything about Krishna, and he wants to know everything about everything. So this is very enlivening for Sukadeva Goswami, no doubt, to get these questions from someone who so sincerely is eager for this information, this knowledge, this realization. Prabhupada's commentary. Maharaj Parikshit had already been advised by his spiritual master, Sukadeva Goswami, to think of the universal form of the Lord. And therefore, following the advice of his spiritual master, he continually thought of that form. The universal form is certainly material, but because everything is an expansion of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, ultimately nothing is material. Therefore, Parikshit Maharaj's mind was saturated with spiritual consciousness. Srila Rupa Goswami has stated, everything, even that which is material, is connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, everything should be engaged in the service of the Lord. Yeah, that's real renunciation, is whatever one is given or has should be used in the service of the Lord. And false renunciation is just to not see how to use things in the service of the Lord. Like money. If money comes, then it should be used in the service of the Lord, not to falsely renounce. Without making over endeavor to get money, but if the money's coming, then it is meant for serving Krishna, or whatever we have in our possession. If we have land or family, everyone and everything is meant for serving Krishna, and that's how we become renounced. We don't renounce necessarily the things, but we renounce the attachment to them for our own purposes other than serving Krishna. So seeing here that although the universal form of the Lord is considered not really a form of the Lord in the sense of like a Vishnu incarnation, but is something that can be meditated, the Lord can be meditated on by seeing this form of the Lord within the material energy, become aware of his presence there, because actually everything is coming from him. So, in that sense, it is spiritual. So, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur translates a verse. One should not give up anything connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thinking it material or enjoyable for the material senses. So you don't give it up, but you also don't consider it as something to enjoy. So it's like both sides, balances out. One should not give up anything connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thinking it material or enjoyable for material senses. Even the senses, when purified, are spiritual. When Maharaj Parikshit was thinking of the universal form of the Lord, his mind was certainly situated on the transcendental platform. Therefore, although he might not have had any reason to be concerned with detailed information of the universe, he was thinking of it in relationship with the Supreme Lord, and therefore such geographical knowledge was not material, but transcendental. Elsewhere in Srimad Bhagavatam, Narada Muni has said, Idam hi Vishvam Bhagavan Ivetara. The entire universe is also the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although it appears different from him. Therefore, though Parikshit Maharaj had no need for geographical knowledge of this universe, that knowledge was also spiritual and transcendental, because he was thinking of the entire universe as an expansion of the energy of the Lord. He was thinking of the entire universe as an expansion of the energy of the Lord. Yeah, if we're developing a loving relationship with someone, we want to know everything about them. Not so we can exploit them or like this, but just because it enhances the love and appreciation for the object of our love. The more we know about them, the more wonderful they are. The more amazing they are. So, Maharaj Parikshit is like that. He had no need for geographical knowledge of the universe. That knowledge was also spiritual and transcendental because he was thinking of the entire universe as an expansion of the energy of the Lord. Getting to know you. All about you. They have that song they sing. It's a mundane love song, but we can find instructions everywhere. Getting to know you, getting to know all about you, the Lord. In our preaching work also, we deal with so much property and money, so many books bought and sold, but these dealings all pertain to the Krishna consciousness movement. It should never be considered material. That one is absorbed in thoughts of such management does not mean he is outside of Krishna consciousness. If one rigidly observes the regulative principle of chanting 16 rounds of the Mahamantra every day, his dealings with the material world for the sake of spreading the Krishna consciousness movement are not different from the spiritual cultivation of Krishna consciousness. Yeah. That's the renunciation, using everything in the service of Krishna, becomes spiritualized. Prabhupada makes the point, if observed rigidly chanting the 16 rounds every day, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and dealings with the material world for the sake of spreading Krishna conscious movement are non-different from the spiritual cultivation of Krishna consciousness. This is the design of Krishna has given this design through Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Has designed this branch of the movement of Lord Chaitanya that is so potent like that. Text 4. The great Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, "My dear king, there's no limit to the expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's material energy. This material world is a transformation of the material qualities, sattvagun, rajagun, and tamagun. Yet no one could possibly explain it perfectly, even in a lifetime as long as that of Brahma's. No one in the material world is perfect, and an imperfect person could not describe this material universe accurately, even after continued speculation. O King, I shall nevertheless try to explain to you the principal regions such as Bhūgoloka, with their names, forms, measurements, and various symptoms. Prabhupada's commentary. The material world is only 1/4 of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's creation. But it is unlimited and impossible for anyone to know or describe. Even with the qualification of a life as long as that of Brahma, who lives for millions and millions of years. Modern scientists and astronomers try to explain the cosmic situation and the vastness of space, and some of them believe that all the glittering stars are different suns. From Bhagavad Gita, however, we understand that all those stars, nakshatras, are like moons, and that they reflect the sunshine. They're not independent luminaries. Bhuloka is explained to be that portion of outer space through which heat and light of the sun extend. Therefore, it's natural to conclude that this universe extends in space as far as we can see and encompasses the glittering stars. Srila Sukadeva Goswami admitted that to give full details to this expansive material universe would be impossible. But nevertheless, he wanted to give the king as much knowledge as he had received through the parampara system. We should conclude that if one cannot comprehend the material expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one certainly cannot estimate the expansiveness of the spiritual world. The Brahma Samhita confirms this. Advaitam achyutam anadim anantarupam adyam purana purusham pranavanovanam cha. The limits of the expansions of Govinda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, cannot be estimated by anyone. Even a person as perfect as Brahma, not to speak of tiny scientists whose senses and instruments are all imperfect, and who cannot give us information of even this one universe. We should therefore be satisfied with the information obtainable from Vedic sources as spoken by authorities like Sukadeva Goswami. Yeah, now there's an interesting point. Because these descriptions may seem so very different from scientists with their telescopes and space balloons and whatever they have, sound, bouncing sound off of radio waves, off of measuring spectrum, different things. They're all imperfect. And here we're getting some perspective on how vast the material world really is, that no one can explain it perfectly, even with a lifetime that of Brahma, and he lives for the entire duration of the universe. So what the scientists may be seeing or perceiving is going to be very, very, very fragmental knowledge. Whereas this Bhagavatam, we should take from authorities like Sukadeva Goswami, great realized saintly persons, in their descriptions of the universe. We should take their descriptions. Even he admits that he can't describe perfectly, but he's going to repeat what he's heard through disciplic succession. So by hearing from Sukadeva Goswami, we'll develop love of God. By hearing from the scientists, we'll wander aimlessly, never reaching a conclusion. And if we do reach a conclusion, it most likely will be something to exploit material nature, which means another birth. So what is their knowledge? What is the value of all their efforts to try to map the universe and discover all these different scientific laws and rules and equations, when the goal is simply to exploit, which means to become more attached to material energy, which means another birth in the material world. So they're really not, their knowledge really is not knowledge. It's simply entanglement. But if we hear from Sukadeva Goswami, even if we can't really understand completely everything that's being said, as far as the geographical and cosmological descriptions, because the purpose and the goal of looking at the universe this way is to see Krishna and understand how Krishna's energies work. Just like Maharaj Parikshit, we just read in the previous verse. What need did he have for understanding all these geological descriptions about the planets? What need did he have for that? His desire to understand those things was not to exploit and to become entangled. His desire was to see how glorious and wonderful Krishna's energies work and how wonderful Krishna is. So when we hear these descriptions of spiritual, scientific, Vedic cosmology, then we actually benefit. We get some benefit. So that is how we're approaching. He said, we should therefore be satisfied with the information obtainable from Vedic sources, as spoken by authorities like Sukadeva Goswami. Text 5. Just trying to prepare ourselves for some of the amazing things we're going to be hearing about in the Vedic description of the universe, and they are truly, truly, truly amazing. Text 5. The planetary system known as Bhumandala resembles a lotus flower, and its 7 islands resemble the whorl of that lotus. Okay, so that's not so bad. The length and breadth of the island known as Jambudvip, which is situated in the middle of the whorl, are 1 million yojanas, 8 million miles, and Jambudvip is round like the leaf of a lotus flower. Okay, so that's pretty big, 8 million miles. There are no purports on these verses. In Jambudvip, there are 9 divisions of land, each with a length of 9,000 yojanas, 72,000 miles. There are 8 mountains that mark the boundaries of these divisions and separate them nicely. Oh, there is a purport here. Prabhupada's purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives the following quotation from Vāgavata Purāṇa, wherein the locations of the various mountains, beginning with the Himalayas, are described. And this is all in Sanskrit. So, it's all in Sanskrit. But there's Vishwanath Chakravarti gives from the Vāgavata Purāṇa the exact locations of these mountains, beginning with the Himalayas. Text 7. Amidst these divisions or varsas is the varsa named Ilavrita, which is situated in the middle of the whorl of the lotus. Within Ilavrita Varsha is Sumera mountain, which is made of gold. Sumera mountain is like the pericarp of the lotus, like Bhumandala planetary system. The mountain's height is the same as the width of Jambudvip. Or, in other words, 100,000 yojanas, 800,000 miles. Of that 16,000 yojanas, 128,000 miles, are within the earth. Okay, so, all right. And therefore the mountain's height above the earth is 84,000 yojanas, 672,000 miles. The mountain's width is 32,000 yojanas, 256,000 miles at its summit, and 16,000 yojanas at its base. Text 8. Just north of Ilavritavarsa, and going further northward, one after another, are three mountains named Nila, Sveta, and Shringavan. These mark the borders of the three Varsas named Ramyaka, Hiranyamaya, and Kuru, and separate them from one another. The width of these mountains is 2,000 yojanas, 16,000 miles. Lengthwise, they extend east and west to the beaches of the ocean of salt water. Going from south to north, the length of each mountain is 1/10 that of the previous mountain, but the height of them all is the same. Prabhupada's commentary. In this regard, Madhvacharya quotes the following verses from the Bhāgavata Purāṇa. There's some Sanskrit there. It appears from these verses that, aside from the sun and moon, there is an invisible planet called Rahu. The movements of Rahu cause both solar and lunar eclipses. We suggest that the modern expeditions attempting to reach the moon are mistakenly going to Rahu. Oh boy. Hare Krishna. An invisible planet called Rahu. Text 9. Similarly, south of Ilavritavarsa and extending from east to west are three great mountains named Nisada, Hemakuta, and Himalaya. Each of them is 10,000 yojanas, 80,000 miles high. They mark the boundaries of the three Varshas named Harivarsha, Kimparusha Varsha, and Bharatavarsha, India. Text 10. Oh, Krishna. In the same way, west and east of Ilavritavarsa are two great mountains named Malyavan and Gandhamadana, respectively. These two mountains, which are 2,000 yojanas, 16,000 miles high, extend as far as Nila Mountain in the north and Nishada in the south. They indicate the borders of Ilavritavarsa and are also the Varshas known as Ketumala and Bhadrasva. Prabhupada's commentary. There are so many mountains, even on this earth planet, we do not think that the measurements of all of them have actually been calculated. While passing over the mountainous region from Mexico to Caracas, we actually saw so many mountains that we doubt whether their height, length, and breadth had been properly measured. Therefore, as indicated in Srimad Bhagavatam by Sukadeva Goswami, we should not try to comprehend the greater mountainous areas of the universe merely by our calculations. Sukadeva Goswami has already stated that such calculations would be very difficult, even if one had a duration of life like that of Brahma. We should simply be satisfied with the statements of authorities like Sukadeva Goswami and appreciate how the entire cosmic manifestation has been made possible by the external energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The measurements given herein, such as 10,000 yojanas or 100,000 yojanas, should be considered correct because they've been given by Sukadeva Goswami. Our experimental knowledge can neither verify nor disprove the statements of Srimad Bhagavatam. We should simply hear their statements from the authorities. If we can appreciate the extensive energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that will benefit us. Yeah, boy, the mind just goes bazooki when it hears this. It's like, so big, why can't I see it? And the earth is in the middle, and it's not like that. We just have to hear this and understand that these are the energies of the Lord. These are the designs that underlie the material creation. This is how it's designed. And just let it go at that. And you can appreciate the greatness of the Lord. What we see with our limited eyes. What do we see? What can we see? Well, if we look at the sun from here, and we can't really look at it, but if we do for a second, it's about the size of a quarter. And it's just very bright. What can we see? And our senses are so limited that even if we extend the reach of our senses through use of different machines and inventions and contraptions, how much can they be extended into the vastness? Not even a hair's breadth of being able to perceive, even with the most sophisticated telescopes and microscopes. Still, the limitations are overwhelming, just completely overwhelming. So, to put it in perspective like that, and then this will help us, hearing this will help us to not depend on our external senses for our information, which is what the scientists do. They experiment with the material energy, and then they make conclusions. And then those conclusions are disproved a few years later by someone else. Especially in physics, this goes on all the time. So, not to depend on our external senses for understanding how the energies of the Lord are maintaining and what the structure of the universe is. And then we don't have to experience a lot of mental anguish and frustration. Just realize that we have limitations and that these sources are authoritative. And just listen. Don't pass judgment. And just appreciate what we're hearing. It's not easy because we're very much accustomed to rely on our senses for our information and our knowledge. And this is another area that we need to be purified in, is the so-called scientific understanding of things. We need to be freed from that. That's another material attachment, that false ego is get very proud of these things. So we're being challenged here. There's a lot of people who come to the Hare Krishna movement and they practice for some time. When they come across this part of the Bhagavatam, they leave. Because their false ego is so challenged. Their mental idea of what is real and what isn't real, what the goal of life is. So we need to get beyond that. And the 5th canto will help us. Maharaj Parikshit's asking the tough questions. He's asking the tough questions. And this is really challenging the mind and the senses. These cantos, they really, really put it to the mind and the senses. So we're going to read this. Text 11. On the 4 sides of the great mountain, known as Sumera, are 4 mountains: Mandara, Meru Mandara, Suparsva, and Kamuda, which are like its belts. The length and height of these mountains are calculated to be 10,000 yojanas, 80,000 miles high. Okay. 12. Standing like flagstaff on the summits of these four mountains are a mango tree, a rose apple tree, a kadamba tree, and a banyan tree. Those trees are calculated to have a width of 100,000 yojanas, 800 miles, and a height of 1,100 yojanas, 8,800 miles. Their branches are also spread to a radius of 1,100 yojanas. Text 13:14. O Maharaj Parikshit, best of the Bharta dynasty, between these four mountains are four huge lakes. The water of the first tastes just like milk, the water of the second like honey, and that of the third like sugarcane juice. The fourth lake is filled with pure water. Celestial beings such as Siddhas, Charanas, and Gandharvas, who are also known as demigods, enjoy the facilities of those four lakes. Consequently, they have the natural perfections of mystic yoga, such as the power to become smaller than the smallest or greater than the greatest. There are also four celestial gardens named Nandana, Tritaratra, Vibrajaka, and Sarvatobhadra. Okay, so between the four mountains are the four lakes, and they taste like different things. One tastes like milk, one tastes like honey, one tastes like sugarcane juice, and then one is just pure water, has no extra taste to it. Text 15. The best of the demigods, along with their wives, who are like ornaments of heavenly beauty, meet together and enjoy within the gardens, while their glories are sung by lesser demigods known as Gandharvas. Okay. I'm going to venture forward on something here, that what is being described here, structure of the universe, it is material, but it may not be gross. These things may be appearing in the subtle material energy, because demigods and Gandharvas, they're not gross beings. They exist on the subtle plane. They have subtle material bodies, mind, intelligence, and ego. But they have they're not ghosts. They have bodies, they have form, but it is they're on the subtle plane, subtle material energy. So what we may be hearing here in the description of the universe may be the subtle form of the universe. And what we're experiencing through our gross material senses is just about all we can perceive through our gross material. It's like the tip of the iceberg, the gross material manifestation. I'm just kind of stepping out on that. See if that is an understanding that's going to come out in these verses. But for today, that's it. And Hare Krishna.